Hey, what's up guys? Dunkmaster Jax here, back with another League of Legends informational video. Today I just want to talk about rune setups for Jax, and I want to go more into depth about the marks for Jax. Like, I wanted to talk about, well, basically all runes in particular, but my main focus is the marks because people, of course, we all have different preferences. And first off, I just want to say, you as a player, you have a different play style than I probably do, and that's totally fine. But there's probably like some math behind this and everything, which I honestly have not done. I haven't went into that, but I will probably do that in a future video. But I'm going to explain why I use hybrid penetration marks instead of attack damage marks or attack speed marks. Even though I do use those sometimes, most of the time I like rolling with this. So, Jax, what does Jax do? Well, he does 2/3 physical damage, and 1/3 of his damage is from magic damage. Okay, so hybrid penetration actually, the thing about it is it gives him more burst. It ignores 8 armor and 5.5 magic pen, which I think rounds out to 6 in the game. So it ignores like 6 magic resist and ignores 8 armor. And keep in mind that this is really good because you don't build penetration with your build most of the time. You don't really build a Yomu's or a something along those lines, right? You don't really build Void Staff like on a standard Jax build. So when you take these, it actually helps boost his damage for the missing stats he kind of needs. And there's no hybrid penetration items in the game. There's just items you have to take up 2 slots with, which Jax, he's a really item dependent champion. So penetration, I mean, it's not like better than some items like Trinity Force and stuff like that. So this in combination with like a Gunblade is really good. I like running hybrid penetration when I know I'm probably going to build Gunblade, or I know I build Trinity Force all the time now because after the buff this patch, it's just, you have to take it. Like, it's so damn good. But most of the time when I do run hybrid penetration, I don't really use it in lane that often, unless I know the matchup is okay for me. And if they're like more of a tanky champion and I kind of want the extra damage on them, then the hybrid penetration is going to help out more than the extra AD. But the thing about hybrid penetration opposed to attack damage marks or attack speed marks is, okay, first we'll compare them to attack damage marks. So for in lane and for jungling, okay, for in lane, of course, it's going to help with your last hitting a lot. It's going to make it a lot easier. While hybrid penetration is going to give you more dueling power. That's basically the difference between the two. And hybrid penetration scales better than flat AD does. So keep that in mind too. When I look to build Jax, I look to build him as a scaling champion. You're looking to scale to the point where you're a huge threat and you're really hard to deal with. So when you do decide to go like early runes, you sacrifice potentially better late game. Even though you do scale into the late game pretty well regardless, you do sacrifice that when you do go like flat armor or like flat AD Quints and like flat magic resist. But sometimes you have to do that because sometimes the lane is going to be hard enough where you want the extra early defenses, and it's better to just roll with those. Otherwise, you're probably not going to get much CS. You're probably going to be dead all the time. You're going to be a burden to the team. So again, I just want to emphasize that you guys have to take different rune setups. You have to experiment. You have to test out what works for you the best. But personally, I think hybrid penetration is the best mark on Jax. Besides that, I like attack speed. better than AD marks. I think attack speed scales a lot better than AD marks do on Jax. Because, I mean, you only get like 9 or 8 extra damage from the AD marks on your counter strike. And, I mean, you do get the extra damage on your auto attacks, and then you factor in your, let's say your leap strike too, because that scales with like, I think 60% bonus AD. Let me check the wiki real quick. But yeah, the thing is, you're going to build AD in your build anyways, so why not go hybrid penetration? Although you're not going to have like a ton of AD, if you build a gunblade with it, it's going to make it really good, and it's going to really add up in damage compared to AD marks will. So if you go like, say, gunblade Trinity Force and then just build full tank, it's going to be a lot better for you to have hybrid penetration opposed to AD marks. But AD marks, it helps with the early game. That's what you're looking for. I'm looking at the wiki right now, so I'm kind of just rambling on, saying the same thing over and over. But yeah, you get extra damage late game with hybrid penetration because Jax is a hybrid champion, so hybrid penetration makes more sense on him. And yeah, so that's why I suggest that stat on him. But yeah, his leap strike is actually 100% bonus AD, so yeah, you do get like 9 or 8 extra damage with the attack damage marks, but yeah, the penetration is just a lot better for a stat compared to that for the late game. And as for jungle, it helps with your early clears, but Jax already has a really good early clear, so the AD marks aren't really necessary for jungling with him. But they do help out if you don't really know what you're doing. It's good for beginners, so I do suggest the AD marks. And again, it's personal preference whether or not you want to have a healthier early game compared to a better late game. And that's just my opinion with hybrid penetration opposed to attack damage marks. So for quintessences, I usually take attack speed because it helps with my jungle clear, or it helps with my damage per second in duels. You can run like attack damage quints or like hybrid quints, pin quints, I guess, but they're not nearly as good as attack speed quints. Like, you want to make sure you have attack speed in your rune page somewhere. You want to make sure it is somewhere in your rune page all the time, because if you don't take this, then you're probably going to lose out on a lot of potential damage with Jax. And that's the thing, like, attack speed is probably one of the best scaling stats on Jax, if not the best. So keep that in mind. That's why I take these quintessences, because they really help my jungle clear speed, and in lane they help me farm under tower. They help me get off more auto attacks in lane. So I mean, it helps. And then on top of that, with Jax's passive, you ramp up your attack speed and you get even more attack speed. And it's really insane because it really synergizes well with his kit. He's made to be a basic attack champion. He's made to get his third auto attack off and do that proc damage, which is honestly why I really like running the hybrid pen marks, because I get that thwap of freaking auto attack damage penetration, and then I get the thwap of freaking penetration and more burst with the Grandmaster's Might proc on his ultimate once he acquires that. And then on top of that, I also get more damage on my W, which is an auto attack reset, and it also scales with attack damage. Well, it scales with, yeah, it does scale with attack damage because it's a basic attack, but it also scales with penetration because it's an auto attack, and auto attacks also scale with penetration. So basically you trade off the early game with hybrid penetration. That's why I really like hybrid penetration, like I said before. But yeah, attack speed, you just have more dueling potential. So this is not like a set in stone build. I want you guys to realize that. This is just like a build that is like really good if you're looking for a really nice late game. If you're jungling and if you have experience, then use this. So seals. Scaling armor. Why do I take this? Because it gives me an extra layer of armor on top of my ultimate, and the armor actually matches, I think, around level 6 for scaling compared to flat seals. And you already have like really good clear potential with without flat armor, so the scaling armor is actually a decent choice because your counter strike, you're blocking damage for a few seconds and then you stun the camp. So Jax, he's really good at clearing the jungle. So, and for laning, it's good too if you're looking to scale. If you're not against like a hard lane bully like Pantheon or something, then scaling armor is really good. But yeah, other than that, I do sometimes run like scaling health, or I run like flat armor sometimes, because sometimes I do want the better early game. But that's all I do for runes. Like for not runes in general, but for seals, I go either scaling armor. Flat armor seals. I'm losing my train of thought right now. And yeah, I go scaling health sometimes too. It really depends on their comp for what I take. Like if they don't have much AD, I like running like scaling health with like scaling magic resist if they're like super heavy AP or heavy magic damage. Like if they have like a lot of magic damage dealers that build AD but still deal magic damage. I don't really know what champions. I don't know, like Gnar with his W and stuff like that. And I don't know. Like the armor's nice, but and this is like a basic rune setup you would like actually, because all teams have an AD carry, so the scaling armor will be useful no matter what. So you can never go wrong with those seals. And it'll help you in team fights too. It'll give you that extra coat of armor to deal with those types of characters. But yeah, other than that, for laning, you just look to scale. You look to scale. Your trading is awful with these runes, which is why I normally run something like this more often in lane than I do than jungle. Like, because I know some matchups it's going to be really, really tough. Like, if I'm against a Kale, I'd most definitely run this, probably, because Kale is kind of annoying even early game for Jax, because, I mean, she deals a lot of damage through her Righteous Fury or something. What is it called? I don't know. But she also shreds magic resist, and she does a lot of attack damage too. Like, she does a lot of physical damage because she usually runs Fervor of Battle, and she's still using basic attacks. So, I mean, she really hurts. So, armor is really good against certain matchups like that. And if you're against like a Pantheon, then you definitely want like, you probably want something more like greater seals of armor, and then you might want a bit more armor too. Because sometimes I actually have like, well, I have a page like this where I just run flat armor quints, scaling armor, and cooldown reduction, and then attack speed. And the purpose of this page is to have that early armor as well as the scaling armor. So I scale still, I get the cooldown reduction, and I cap before 18 with items, because of the 15 at level 18. I forget what level it caps at once you have the 30% from items, but yeah, and then of course attack speed, because you always want attack speed. guys. Like, you really do. Unless you're like AP and you're looking just for the quick bursts and stuff and you know what you're doing. But for most things, you definitely want the what's it called? You want the attack speed. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. But yeah, for this rune page, this is just like one example. I just want to go over a hybrid pin. And yeah, I usually run this because, like, I mean, I feel like a lot of matchups nowadays are still like tanky matchups, and there's a lot of mages running around still, and you still have to worry about auto attack damage and all that shit. And so you get a lot of resistances in the late game. This helps with your team fighting. This helps with your dueling late game. That's just like, the thing about this page is if you fall super behind, then it's like not too bad for you because you still have these incoming stats opposed to your flat armor and your flat magic resist. So that's why I like these pages, because you still get these scaling stats coming in through leveling, and eventually you'll be like more of a threat later on. And of course, you're probably going to still be useless depending on how far behind you are, and Jax tends to be a champion that falls in a bad spot when he's behind. So with this setup, you actually won't have too much of an issue because you'll still be scaling and everything. So yeah, guys, that was kind of my breakdown of my runes. I would probably get more in depth into it later, but yeah, I really think this is like the best rune setup. This is like my favorite one overall right now. And then of course with Trinity Force being 20% CDR, I build like, depending on what their team comp is, I build like a Frozen Heart if they have like so much AD. But if they have like heavy magic resist, then usually I build a Spirit Visage, sometimes a Banshees on top of that. I don't know, sometimes they have just mixed damage team comps, so I don't know, I just do a lot of different builds, but that'll be for a separate video. But yeah, guys, I just kind of want to get more in depth about hybrid penetration. Basically, you sacrifice early game, you're better late game. You get stats that you wouldn't get from items in the first place, so that's a good thing. Besides that, though, you could run like armor penetration, which scales pretty well too, since Jax is 2/3 physical damage. You could never go wrong with that. And of course, there's like so many setups I have. I have 20 rune pages because I've been playing this champion for about almost 3 years now, and so I kind of know what I'm doing with him, but at the same time, I'm not like, of course, a challenger player, so I mean, you can take my advice with a grain of salt, I guess, but yeah, I mean, this is my personal preference, and this is what I think makes sense on him, because he is meant to be a late game champion. If you're looking for the early game, then you may as well like main a different champion, like hands down. Like, unless you know you can dominate the early game with Jax, and if you can get a lead, the early game runes can be nice. But other than that, I like this because, like, if you learn to dominate with a page like this, and you farm really well, and you just scale, you are a huge threat. Like, people are going to have a really hard time with you if you're split pushing and everything. So, yeah, that's my reasoning behind this rune page. Of course, do not build this rune page all the time. This is just, like, something I would, experiment with. This is definitely something I would experiment with as a individual. Like, sometimes people wouldn't like this for the late game. Sometimes people wouldn't like the scaling late game stuff and the attack speed. There's some weirdos out there that like attack damage quints more than attack speed, but I don't really know why. But it can work out. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. That was kind of me explaining a little bit more. I might have like a more in-depth video. I know this wasn't like too into it, but I just kind of want to explain like this setup that I use and why it's a really solid setup. So yeah, please leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Comment if you have any questions, and let me know what you think about the video. And please subscribe to the channel for some more content and support our Reddit, Grandmaster Jax. And you can also join my club right here, Grandmaster Jax Mains. Just add me on League, Dunkmaster Jax, and yeah. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.
Surprise! I'm back. It's the greatest Grandmaster of lanes, smashing in brains. Gold overflows like capital gains, irrational prey. Stand up, get whacked in the face. You know I'm blowing out champs like classical games.